Thank you for logging on to watch our Truth About Estate Planning video. I am Danielle Olero. I'm an attorney here at Planning with Purpose, and this is my partner, Paul Grant.
I'm also an attorney here at Planning with Purpose.
Yes.
How about that?
So thank you for logging on. We are hoping to answer some of your initial questions, so this is going to give you some education about what the difference between a will and a trust is and how we can help you and your family do some estate planning. So we're going to start out in a more depressing place, which is that most estate plans don't work.
So why do most estate plans not work?
Well, some of the things that we might think about are that your family might change, your finances have changed, and so there's a lot of changes that have happened. So if you have an estate plan, if you have a will or a trust already, think about when it was created, and probably things have changed. Also, and things in our world have changed.
Yeah,
taxes,
law has changed as well.
So there's a lot of things that happen over time that we can't predict when we start doing your estate plan, that over the course of time makes them become less efficient and effective.
And so what we get a lot is individuals who come in and they say, hey, I want a will, or I want a trust. And that's great because we already have someone who's walking into the office thinking about their estate plan, and we get it. But if we were to take a quick moment and think about what does it mean to remodel your kitchen? You typically don't have a contractor come in and say, hey, by the way, I really want to make sure that you use your hammer at least 40% of the time because then I'm going to be satisfied. Rather, what we typically do if we're going to remodel a kitchen is we say, this is what I envision, and then we turn it back over to the professional to say, well then I'm going to use these tools to accomplish your specific vision. So, as attorneys, what we often find is that we have individuals come into the office thinking about their estate plan, perfect, but we want to make sure that we cover some of the general tools and get you a better education so that therefore when you come and actually meet us, we're better prepared as a together group, you and us, to talk about those specific tools and why they fit better into your estate plan.
Yeah, so rather than talking about the tools, or unfortunately for us, we had to go to law school, which means that when people come into the office, we are trained over the course of the 3 years that we're there to look at you and think, oh, what legal problems or what tax issues do I see when you're coming into the office? And so rather, we want to start with, you know, what are your goals? What's your vision for how your estate plan is going to work? How's that going to work for your family? What does that mean for your finances? So we want to see what those goals are, just the same way as you would talk to your contractor about, here's my vision for my kitchen. What's your vision for your estate plan? And then we have the law and the taxes, and that's really the last piece that we're going to put around you and your family to create a well-formed estate plan that's going to work as you intended and wanted to.
Yeah, so the planning pyramid that you see here is the foundation has to be about you. What is your vision? We want to make sure you're well taken care of. Then we can want to know about your family. Then we can start filling in the puzzle about what assets do you own, how do we expand wealth. Like Danielle said, then we're at the top of the pyramid. It's our job to put the law around what your vision is, make sure that it is going to also have all the tax implications well thought out. But notice how that's the smallest piece and really the last piece. The foundation is you. So therefore, we have to ask, what is your vision? What are your goals in doing estate planning? It usually is more than I just need a document. Okay, well, we understand that. You need good legal documents in order to capture your goals and your vision. But what is your personal vision? What are your personal goals?
And as you're thinking about those goals, estate planning, a lot of people come in and they think, oh, this is a death document. It actually encompasses a lot more than that. So our definition for estate planning is that you want to control your property while you're alive and well. We both like control, right, Paul?
Yeah, I do.
So most people like control, but then if you were to become disabled, so disability in our world doesn't mean a workplace accident. It means that for one reason or another, you or your spouse can't manage your finances. So that might mean an injury, it might mean dementia or Alzheimer's. So what's going to happen at those two places during lifetime And then we get to what happens after you've passed away. So we want to make sure we get what we have to who we want, when we want to, and the way that we want it to get to them. So in thinking about your goals, what do you actually want to see as you're looking down from heaven, your family and your finances experiencing in all three of those stages of life and then death?
And most, so we have 3 stages. So we have planning for when we're alive and well. We have disability planning. In other words, you're our first priority. Let me see if I can say that well. You are the first priority. We need to make sure that you are well taken care of and that your assets are going to work for your benefit while you need them. Then, when you pass away, or if you're married, when both of you pass away, then we can do stage 3, which is how do we then distribute and protect the people that we leave behind. And when we leave people behind, we don't want people to be looking like this guy. Okay? Most individuals have a high priority of making sure that there is a smooth transition. As a matter of fact, that's one of the highest goals of most clients that we talk to. Is yes, take care of the family, but we want to make sure that we don't leave a mess behind. And maybe that's why you're interested in coming in and actually talking to us to make sure that indeed we can get things moving smoothly for your family when it is necessary, whether that is disability or whether that's passing away.
Yeah, and so I work with doing a lot of the settlements here at the office, and
Yeah.
I'll say that if it's not your goal, it's certainly the person you're leaving
Yeah,
behind, that's their
definitely
goals. So we want to create plans that are predictable and known outcomes. We don't want to hope that they're going to work. We don't want to, just put something out there and hope that it's going to work. We want to make sure that it's going to be predictable and known for both you and for those that you leave behind, so that we don't have them looking like that picture we just had.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of different ways that we can do estate planning. And so we're going to talk today about wills and trusts, but anytime you do a beneficiary designation, or if you're giving away assets for estate planning, not necessarily for charitable giving, those are doing estate planning, and you may not
including joint asset, right?
Yeah.
Even between married couples, or if you bring your child onto a bank account because you think it's easier, all of those things equate to estate planning.
Exactly. So you're doing estate planning all the time. There's really only one wrong way to do estate planning, which is the top one, which is do nothing, which you're not in that camp because you're watching this video, so that's good for you. So we're just going to talk about the differences between how we're doing estate planning and the benefits of both of those.
So there's 4 major documents that every person needs, no matter who you are, any adult. So even 18-year-olds marching off to college, they're adults. I know it doesn't seem like it, but they are by law. So anyone who's that age or older needs these 4 major documents. Number 1 is a will or a trust. That's your disposition document. Number 2, financial power of attorney. Number 3, medical power of attorney. And the 4th is a living will or a durable power of attorney, also known as an end-of-life document, fondly known as pull the plug. So, so those 4 major documents are always necessary. They create the base plan of anything that we ever do. There's other documents though.
Yeah, so we use other documents to sort of support those 4 major documents. So HIPAA, so access to your medical records. If someone's making medical decisions for you, you probably want them to have access to your medical records. Or guardianship documents for those of you who have minor children. Final arrangements, how do you want to have funeral arrangements or cremation, things like that. So we have other documents that sort of support those 4 main documents that everybody needs.
So what is probate? Well, probate is a system where when you have a will or you have assets in your name and you don't have a will, that in order to transfer them from you to the beneficiaries, we need to oftentimes go through a probate. There's a couple things that we'll do a probate runaround. If you have beneficiary designations or a transfer on death, if you own things in joint asset mode, those will also avoid probate. However, a house, for example, if you're the only owner of a house and you've passed away, it's very difficult to get your signature. I know, pretty revolutionary. But it's really hard to get your signature, so we need somebody to have the legal authority to sign your name after you've passed away. That's called a personal representative in Washington, And in order to have a personal representative put in place of an estate, we need to open up a probate. It doesn't happen just because the will says that that your child or your uncle or whoever else you're going to name is your personal representative. We need legal authority. We need a judge's signature. So really, a probate is the process of empowering the individual who is going to have the legal authority to transfer your assets from your name to the appropriate individuals or your beneficiaries. And also, they have to pay the debts.
Right.
So they also are responsible to make sure that the debts are paid. So if you had a credit card, if you were in the hospital when you passed away, there's medical bills that may need to be dealt with, utilities and things of this nature. So a probate then is the legal process so that we can transfer assets from one person to another. Now, in Washington, it doesn't cost a bunch of money to get through a probate. However, it still takes minimally 6 months. I don't like to waste time. And it can cost too much, specifically if you have specific types of assets, businesses, multiple properties. Property out of state is a big one. Then we may have to open up multiple probates. Yeah. Here and in another state. That would be a bummer. And then also it's a fully public process. So if we can avoid a probate, our philosophy is it would be better. However, wills oftentimes march us down the probate road. They don't always have to do that. There are ways that we can assign and align your estate to avoid that process. However, understand that probate is the process of legally being able to transfer your assets, and it is a public process. What are ways that we can possibly avoid it? Well, there's ways that we can do that.
Yeah, so just to reiterate what Paul said, that anything that is in your personal name that doesn't have a beneficiary designation and doesn't have a joint owner is going through probate. And that is regardless of whether you have a will or you don't. So some people walk in and say, well, I have a will, so I'm going to avoid probate. That is not true. So we're going to open up a probate, and a will is really just, it's a death document. Mm-hmm. So it says, here's who I want to close the estate, as Paul was saying, and here's who all of my property is going to go to. And then the court has to basically sanction that that's what's going to happen. So you're going to go through probate most likely, even if you have a will. It's still better than nothing, because now you're saying, here's what I want to have happen, here's who I want to have close my estate. So it's not a wrong way. It is just that, yes, it still goes through probate. So as I said, if it's in your personal name, then that's what's going to go through probate. Now, we're going to talk about a revocable living trust.
Yeah.
And so a revocable living trust, that is, so if we have this candy bowl here in the office, so we create basically what's a holding container. That's your trust. So it says, during my lifetime, here's what I want to have happen. During disability, here's what I want to have happen. During death, here's what I want to have happen. Here's where I want my property to go. So all of your candy in life, so these are your assets. So maybe it's your house, your bank account, an investment account, all of your candy in life, we're going to title it from your personal name into the name of your trust. So if it were me, it might be from my personal name, Danielle Olero, into the Danielle Olero Trust. That's the only difference. So now we put all of my candy into the candy bowl so that all of these instructions attach to them. And now we put my hand underneath, which is called a trustee. So now I am the trustee of everything that is inside of this bowl, and I can use everything inside of it. The only difference is that it's now in the name of my trust. So it's still running under my Social Security number. So another thing that people come in with is that this is an asset protection plan. A revocable living trust, that's the kind of trust we're talking about here, is not an asset protection program. So it's still running under my Social Security number. I can spend, I can do anything that I want to with everything that's inside of here.
And that's a really important point, is that you have full control over all the assets. So she can change the rules, she can change the document, mm-hmm. She can buy, sell, trade, give it away, or consume everything there. As a matter of fact, you have as much, if not more, control over your assets than if it was just in your name when you use a trust. And one of the reasons is because if Danielle was in a bad accident, so now she's going to be disabled in our system. Well, now the rules are going to say if Danielle should not be managing her trust, maybe she has assigned that I would be the person to take over. I would be called the successor trustee. Well, my hand can just very easily slip underneath and I can pull everything over, and now, because I'm the successor trustee, whoever is holding the bowl, whoever holds the trust as the trustee, they are then supposed to follow the instructions. That's why we need instructions. And now I govern how I use her assets for her benefit by the instructions that she has left me. As a matter of fact, when we review trusts, this is noticeably absent. Disability instructions. What do you want to have happen should you encounter a disability? But a revocable, full, absolute, complete control. Living, it should hold living instructions inside the trust, and we don't find that very often. So now, not only does she have full control when she's able to manage it, but she has better control because she left me specific instructions, so I know exactly what to do if she needs assistance at any point during her lifetime. So that's why we say you probably will have more control of your assets after this process is done than what you experience right now.
Yeah. And the way that it's actually transferred, so how do we determine that I am actually disabled? Well, I can now create rules in my trust that say, I want to empower these specific people to speak into my life because I know and trust them to determine that, yes, I need Paul to help me manage my finances. And then, it, like he said, it also says how I want to be taken care of. And so there's a lot of control versus having a more doctor-driven system. Then we find that that's a more difficult transition than me saying, okay, people that I love are actually saying, no, I need help managing finances.
And also, if we just use the will and a financial power of attorney, a financial power of attorney has very little instruction. What it does is it says, I own a bank account, you can go use the bank account. Now, they're supposed to use it for your best interest, but it's absent of an investment requirement, it's absent of instructions. It really is access to something. It is not an instruction to something. So therefore, a will mixed with a financial power of attorney tends to be a less powerful combination for an individual than a trust can be. And then what happens when the trust maker dies? So let's assume that we have children that the trust maker has. So when you pass away, now we're going to split it. Let's say we have 2 kids.
Yeah.
Okay? So we have 2 kids in this family, and we're going to split everything 50-50 because one of them is not a rugrat, so they're all good and they're all healthy. So now we split this into 2 different trusts. From there, what are some of the benefits from that?
Yeah, so I said that initially it's not a asset protection program, but now a bubble of protection goes around. So if Paul is my beneficiary and I leave him,
you.
yeah. If I were to use a will, I would just write him a check and say, here you go.
Awesome.
And now he's in a bad accident.
Oh.
And so someone sues him for that and they're able to take that away from him. Versus I leave it in a trust, and so I give him this trust. Now he's in the same bad accident, he gets sued for that accident. Well, now there's a bubble of protection, and so if the court tries to come in or someone else tries to come in and take what's there, it's kind of like if you have your iPhone and you go to take, to access your iPhone, you have to have the face recognition in order for you to access what's in your phone. It's the same thing as in what's in your revocable living trust. Or excuse me, it's not inside of what you've left for your beneficiaries from a revocable living trust. So now there's asset protection. So if they were to get into a car accident and were to be sued in a lawsuit, if they had to go through bankruptcy, so they started a business, that business unfortunately failed, then this can go through bankruptcy. So there's a walking away spouse. So if there was a divorce, then the walking away spouse is not walking away with what you've left for them.
Yeah, that's a really big one, is that many people, their eyes kind of get big, say, yes, I don't want my son-in-law or my daughter-in-law mother-in-law to have access to what we have built. So there's a shield of protection that goes over this, that the beneficiary can open up, and only the beneficiary has legal rights to then utilize those assets according to what the instructions say. So you can create instructions if we have a special needs child, if we have somebody who is just not really good with money at all, they may need special instructions. No problem, we can put those in. Other people, they just may say, well, I want to leave a trust that is accessible for my beneficiary. No problem, we can do that too, right? Mm-hmm. But that shield of protection is still there, so if they're in that divorce, car accident, bankruptcy, the money is still going to stay with them. It's a very powerful instrument after you've passed away for your beneficiaries.
Yeah. So those are the sort of the major differences between a will and a trust. Again, not one as better than the other necessarily. It just means, how do we want to accomplish your goals? Yeah,
really. I mean, a will does some good things. It tells us who the beneficiaries are. It tells us who is going to close the estate, a personal representative. It then gives court instructions, and if you have minor children, it's going to put guardianships. All those are good things.
Absolutely.
But it cannot solve any tax issues, and it can't solve long-term protection issues. So therefore, a revocable living trust has a little more muscle power, if you will, in order to accomplish specifically tax issues and also protection issues long-term for your family.
Yep. And it's all going to run, so it's not going to go through probate. So because it is now not in my personal name anymore, it is in the name of the trust, now it's completely private closing, and we can do it much faster and for less money because it is faster.
Yeah. All right, so then we have a formal updating program that we want to introduce. We just have a couple more minutes with you here on this video. Thank you for your attention. So most attorneys are really good document producers. In other words, they produce a document and they hand it across the table when we're all done with the design and we've signed all the paperwork. And over time, what we have found is that there's 3 different areas that are going to constantly change. One of them is personal and finances. So your family constantly changes, your finances continue to change. These are things that are outside of our control, and there may be things that we need to make fine-tune adjustments on within your estate plan when your family changes.
Yeah, and then you're consistently updating your finances. So anytime that we use a will or a trust, we have to make sure that your finances, we talked earlier about joint ownership or beneficiary designations, we have to make sure that those are all incorporated into whatever kind of planning that you're doing. And then we also always have changes that are going through the legal process for taxes. So those are consistently changing, and maybe you don't know about those necessarily unless you're geeks like us who like to read about that on Friday afternoons.
Yeah.
And then we're consistently getting better too at what we do. We go to 3 conferences a year at the very least. And so we're consistently going into our own documents, just making them more clear, making them better as we're getting more experience, that we're just making it more smooth. So you want the benefit of us just getting better at what we do as well.
So what we have found out is that if we just hand you a document, then let's say that we're really good at our job, because we are, and we make a very, very good document for you. Well, over time, your family changes, law and taxes change, we learn things that are different and better, and all the while the estate plan begins to continually wear down in its efficiency and effectiveness, and it's outside of all of our control. So the informal way is that an attorney would say, if you need something, let us know. Okay, well, you know about your family, but how do you know about the legal and tax changes that we watch all the time, or the new industry adjustments? And how do we know about your family? Well, we don't. And so there's a disconnect in in keeping that up to date and what each other is informed about. So there is always a life cycle that we find that a that a plan goes through? Well, at the very beginning, 1, 2, and 3 is the planning stage, and we can make a good plan. We can get your assets incorporated with that plan. And then this is where most people stop. As a matter of fact, a lot of attorneys don't even do number 3. So, but let's assume that they incorporate your assets to the plan. That's where it ends. But as you can see from our model, there is still a lot of other things to accomplish. So we have a continuation relationship, there's family reception. How is your family ready to receive wealth? What happens when you do have that disability? What happens when you have a health issue? In number 6, there's always going to be life adjustments. Then unfortunately,
our clients have a way of passing away
Yeah,
at some
they do.
point, and so walking the family through that process to make sure that it's a smooth transition, and then ultimately making sure that we're passing along both finances but also a true legacy. So what do we go back to? The letters, the wisdom that's able to be passed on, and so we want to be able to pass those on as well. So we have our 3-step strategy. We want to make sure that we plan for a time of, during our lifetime, time of disability, as well as after you've passed away. And the way that we do that is for, we have a legacy and maintenance program. So that's a formal updating program, so as opposed to the informal that most attorneys use, we invite our clients to come into a relationship program with us.
and stay in relationship.
Stay in relationship with us, so as your family changes, as your finances change, and as the law and the taxes change, then we're continually updating your plan so that when we need to use it, that it's ready to be used. So we always say that estate planning is really easy. Just tell us 30 days before you're going to die, and we'll get it all right.
Pretty easy.
Yeah.
So on an annual basis, what we do is we send out a review of all your major decisions in your trust. And we ask, do you have any family changes? Is somebody that you named as a key player in your plan, are they good, or are they going through a health problem? Are they going through a family problem that you need to make a fine-tune adjustment? We also send an asset review report that shows, are your assets still aligned properly with the plan itself? So we send out multiple things for you to review in an easy to follow format, so you don't have to keep going back to the plan itself. Now we also ask for a commitment to come to 1 annual meeting a year. That is a group meeting. It is not a private meeting. It's a group meeting. That's an economy of scale thing for us. We can talk about the legal changes, tax changes, and we can ask for signatures so that we can have permission to go back and do our job, which is to watch over the plan consistently. So not only that, but we have a lot of different training programs.
Yeah, so we have a successor trustee training program. So that's who's going to take over if you were to pass away, who's going to close your estate. If you were disabled, then the person who's going to manage your estate if you're disabled, because that's a completely different process. And then we want to make sure that your family is ready to receive what you have. So we have training for your beneficiaries as well. So those are on an annual basis. We can make sure that you are both educated about your plan, and that those who have rules in your plans are also ready to do that.
Yeah, because if we were traditional attorneys, then we would give you the document, and oftentimes the next time that we would see a family is when someone dies. That is the worst time to have your family walk back in and meet the attorney for the first time with no foundation of education, no understanding of the plan. When insecurity abounds, our program gives a lot of good education so that the next generation, the people that you are going to entrust with your plan, they're ready. They know what's happening so that they can wrestle with their loss and not have to wrestle with gaining new knowledge or new relationships in this critical field.
Yeah. And so then we also invite you in to reprint your trust and all of your power of attorneys every 3 years as a part of the program. And then because we're watching over your finances, we guarantee that your estate will not go to probate because everything is properly in the name of your trust, or the beneficiary designations are correct. And then we guarantee fixed closing costs, but because the family has been trained, we know where your finances are, and we've been helping you along the way, then we want to make sure that you know how much every step of the process is going to be.
So one of the major goals that we've talked about before is that people want a smooth transition. We believe that we have a system to help align a smooth transition with very good documents, good legal and tax work. And then also good training so that the next generation, that the individuals who you're going to trust close it are ready. Good process so that we stay in communication so your documents are at their highest, best level, both legally and taxes, and also from your perception and your points of view, which over time will continue to change. So this creates a smoother transition than just having a document. The answer is not a document. Document's okay. It's a start, but it's not the best solution to ensure a smooth transition.
So this would be sort of the journey that we would walk through to actually create the plan. And so we start out with education. That's what you're doing here. And now that you've watched this video, then we would invite you to come in for a complimentary firm introduction, which is just where we're going to get to know you, your family, your finances, and what your goals are. After that, we would go into design sessions, and that's where we actually start making decisions as to how we would design your plan. Then we would come back in, sign those documents, and then, like I said, we have to make sure that all of your finances are fully integrated into your plan. So you would have a meeting with our financial integrations coordinator, and he is going to walk you through getting those into the name of your trust and what that means to integrate your finances. And then we go into the legacy and maintenance program. So that's the training, that's the annual client meetings. We have something called DocuBank, which is a card that'll go in your wallet, and if you landed in a hospital anywhere with fax or email, or fax or
Internet
Wi-Fi
connection, that's the one you want.
Yes, fax or Wi-Fi, then they would be able to have access to your estate planning healthcare documents. So you would enter into our legacy and maintenance program so that we can continue to have that updating, and it's fully ready when you use it.
Can I have some of your trust, by the way?
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you so much.
And one last thing that we did want to let you know about is that a lot of people want to know about, pay or price ranges. And so we do have plans that go anywhere from $2,000 to $15,000, and most people land sort of in the middle of that.
Yeah.
So about $6,000 or so is our typical plan, but we do have plans that range from all different types, and that just depends on what your goals are and what your family is. So just wanted to put that out there as well, and we would give you full pricing when you come in and meet with us.
Yep. All right, thank you again. Wonderful to meet you on video. We look forward to meeting you soon in person.
Thank you.